We've been using locks and keys for over 1,000 years for access control, and they work great. But when you're dealing with more than a few people and a few doors, managing access to the doors, essentially key management, starts to get difficult. The first big advance was mechanical pins and then electronic pins, which let you punch a number in to unlock a door. This helped simplify key management because all you had to do is issue a number instead of a key, and it's easy to change the codes when needed. But the security weakness with this comes from how easy it is to share the codes. You just really can't control the access privileges very well. Proximity or magstripe cards with electronic readers helped with this because the cards are harder to copy, but you still have the problem of managing access for multiple people across multiple doors without connecting all of the readers together in the network. Without them being connected, managing access for individuals in a building or campus meant visiting each door individually when someone was hired or fired. The obvious next step was to network the readers and supporting access panels. So now all of the monitoring and management of permissions could be managed centrally. And that's basically how most electronic access control systems have worked for the last 40 years. These systems are relatively expensive, though, averaging about $3,000 to $5,000 per door, including the installation of all the hardware at the door, the management software you got to buy, the servers to run the software, and then all the custom wiring. That cost was somewhat reduced by using the corporate LAN and IP-enabled devices, so you got rid of the custom wiring, but you still have all the costs associated with the server. Excuse me, let me get the slide. So what we've done is we put the system in the cloud using cloud door controllers. So instead of traditional access panels, these door controllers talk to our servers in our co-location facility over the internet, and they're monitored and managed through a web using a standard browser. What this does, is lower the cost. So there's no server to buy and maintain, and the whole system piggybacks on existing network infrastructure. You monitor and manage the system from anywhere, so there's no need for a security operations center, and it's much easier to integrate your security system with other cloud-based services, like our own cloud video surveillance system. The cloud is inescapable today, and most business functions are moving to the cloud and being deployed under software as a service models, pay-as-you-go models. So most companies these days use these and other cloud services to run their business operation. The main driver is lower costs. There's no servers to take care of, no equipment to buy and maintain. You pay only for what you use. They give you greater flexibility because you've got access to your resources from anywhere, and greater reliability because as part of your service, you get a dedicated team of experts working 24/7 to keep everything up and available, something only a large company could afford before. Also, a lot of companies are moving costs from capital expenditures to operating expenditures, which is extremely attractive. Security has been one of the last segments to move into the cloud because, well, it's security. And it always seemed better to have all that stuff locked in a room on site. But security is moving into the cloud anyway because it has to. Cloud-based services enable access to sensitive business data from mobile devices, organizations, mission-critical information is out in the world and in their employees' pockets. That means network and device security and reliability has gotten better as more and more people become to rely on it. There just isn't any reason anymore that physical security systems shouldn't be moved into the cloud as well. And top of that, there's a ton of money to be saved. And if you look around server rooms these days, there's just not much left in them. And probably one of the last things left in them, the DVRs capturing the video and whatever computer they got running the access control systems. So one of the biggest advantages of moving to a cloud-based security system is the low lifetime total cost of ownership, which can be up to 75% lower over a 5-year lifespan. Now, it depends on the configuration, but it's clear that if you have a remote facility with just a couple of doors, the per-door cost of running a server to manage those doors is extremely high when you can only spread that cost over 2 or 3 doors. not just the hardware cost of the server, but the personnel cost of keeping it up and going with a high availability. And oftentimes there's no one actually dedicated to doing that at those small facilities. With the cloud-based solution, all of those costs go away. Not only that, installation's less expensive. There's no server and no management software to install or configure. No IT expense. Our cloud door controllers are truly plug and play. You simply plug them into the LAN, they phone home to our servers, download their configuration, and just instantly start working. Door configuration for particular doors can be done in advance through a browser. Even if you have advanced features like alarm deactivation, where you come up to the door, you swipe once to unlock it, swipe twice to disarm the alarm system. Or if you need to make changes after stuff has been deployed, all of that configuration can be done by our support staff without a site visit usually. So with this cloud-based system, you get better physical security. Remote management lets you make changes anytime from anywhere. So if it's anything that's time critical, it can be done immediately by the proper people. Rule-based notifications, they let all the right people know what's going on wherever they are, whenever. There are minimal single points of failure. Essentially, if you're connected to the internet and your internet's working, your system's working. And even if you lose internet and power, your access control systems keeps working because our gateways have backup power and enough local intelligence, so they'll continue to manage the door according to configured permissions. Also, you get much better data security. We have physically secure co-location facilities where the data is stored. The servers are redundant, so you never lose your data, even if we lose a server. All communications from our servers to the doors are highly encrypted. Our cloud door controllers can only call out. So that means that even if a hacker gets access to your LAN, they can't talk to our controllers, the door controllers, because they simply will not accept incoming requests. All the messages that go to the controllers incorporate role codes. That means that even if someone who has access to the LAN can see the messages being sent, say for instance a remote unlock request, they can't just send the same message and make the door unlock. Our server technology stack is secure because we don't use proprietary technology like Microsoft Windows servers, which need constant security patches. And when security issues do come up, we can deploy patches across our whole system extremely quickly and easily. The cloud structure is a true cloud-based service, and thus it gets all the advantages of any other cloud-based service. Excuse me. We realize operational efficiencies by running everybody's individual systems on our servers. So each system only uses the resources it absolutely needs. Again, redundant servers provide reliability and full backups of all your data. When we deploy new features or fixes, those changes are deployed system-wide in a matter of minutes. So you're basically always running the latest software with a full feature set. And all this happens with no cost to the customer. Top of that, the customer gets all of this for a simple, low monthly per door subscription fee. Now, we think our system's great for just about any access control scenario, but it works best for organizations with multiple locations, mobile workforce, and high turnover users. With multiple locations running on separate LANs, a traditional system needs basically an individual server for each LAN. That means that anyone who has access across multiple locations, their permissions can't be managed from one place without logging into each individual server and making those changes. The only other way to do that from a central location would be setting up a VPN. That's expensive, unreliable, and I mean, ask any IT person, a complete pain in the butt. So if you add high turnover rates for the people using the system, the system becomes almost impossible to manage. So let's say on a college campus, when the term ends, if you've enrolled all of your, say, 2016 spring students in a group in our system, At the end of the term, you could revoke all of their access privileges to all of the buildings that they've had access to, no matter what the individual's permissions were during that term, in literally a minute. Since it's a cloud system, administrators with proper permissions can unlock and lock doors from anywhere. Say a pipe bursts in a building in the middle of the night. A facility director gets a call. He or she can grant access permissions to a worker or a contractor from their phone without even getting out of bed. Like Salesforce or other cloud-based information systems, our platform allows the right people to get all the information they need to make decisions and do their jobs from wherever they are. This increases situational awareness, which is critical for security, and increases the level of security. Because our platform can also take inputs from other devices, a whole range of additional functionality can be supported. One of our first installs was at a McDonald's that wanted to control access to their food storage refrigerator and monitor the temperature. They set up notifications to managers when the temperature reached certain levels, and they could easily tell if the cause was from the door being held open or if possibly the compressor failed. At a higher temperature, the refrigeration contractor got an automatic notification to come out and address the problem before the food rotted. This type of capability enables all kinds of enhanced value that you can get from our cloud-based system beyond access control. So access systems are just getting smarter and easier to deploy. And we offer some unique capabilities because we are a cloud-based service. We've done integrations with a variety of locks. In particular, a particular note is our integration with ASA Abloy's Wi-Fi locks. These locks are simply installed on the door. There's absolutely no wiring, and they use the existing Wi-Fi infrastructure to connect to the internet. Because there's no wiring, and because there's not even a need for a cloud door controller, they talk directly to our servers. Installations are cut by more than half. They have an entire line of these locks that are aimed at the education market. I think Jeff might talk about those a little bit in the next section. We also have some new features coming out using smartphones so that we can eliminate the need for readers and reduce costs even more. Everyone has their phone all the time, so why not use it to unlock doors? Early next year, we're planning on deploying several new phone-based features. And I think we'll probably have another webinar sometime in February to talk about these, so I hope you can join that if you're interested. The first feature is an app that basically allows you to do a remote unlock of a door, and that of course can be a door that you're standing right in front of, so it eliminates the need for a reader altogether. Again, further reducing the cost of deploying an access control system. Phones can be used to replace your card altogether. On Android devices where NFC is simply the phone mimics the proximity card and you use it just as if you had a card. iPhones, Apple has closed up the NFC for now, but we anticipate that it will be possible to do the same thing with iPhones soon. I think later on down the road, as location services get better, and for high convenience, you'll be able to use the phone to trigger unlocks simply based on your location. I think that'll be very helpful for the use cases like garage door opens and electric gates. Now, to wrap up, I want to let you know a little bit about how we handle installations. CloudStructure acts as a complete lifecycle partner to our customers. We can take care of anything from start to finish on a deployment. We can help define the scope of the project with your personnel and our industry experts. We'll work with you from start to finish on all aspects of the installation and deployment. If you're not planning on handling all the ongoing monitoring and management of the system, we have qualified systems integrators and central station monitoring partners that we can connect you with for the ongoing system management of your system. Also great, if you already have a system in place, access control or video, that's a good thing. We can usually reuse all the existing door hardware and cameras, further reducing the cost of installation. I'm sure there'll be a follow-up email letting you know how to contact us after this webinar if you're interested in more information on this. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Jeff Mormon, who can speak more specifically about your particular situations and needs. Thanks.
I should be good to go now. Can you hear me? All right, so looking at our slides, Rajiv, if you'd go ahead and go down a few slides, let's go to the need of the hour. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the marketplace. As a security integrator, I am obviously placed into the middle of having to construct this, put this together, and meet the client's requirements, their needs, while delivering both the front-end construction of the project as well as the back-end maintenance of the project. What I would tell you is the following. In general, today's current need within the campuses, there's been a leveraging of current IT infrastructure. It's no longer about, and will no longer be about, not utilizing resources that are already in place. This is very important to understand because there's a lot of blue and white wire out in these buildings throughout the country that have been invested in over the last 20 years. We're no longer building an empire of IT. We're trying to utilize what's in place, enterprise-wide integration, and letting those systems connect real estate and interoperate. Investment is within the walls, so it's about, as an integrator, what can you put in place that will allow me to utilize or leverage that investment? And what can I use to reduce cost on maintaining the system? I don't want to add more racks in space. I don't want more points of failure. And that leads me to what they're up against. The empire is no longer being built. It has to collaborate and function within a campus or a building, and it has to be able to use what's already in place. There's been a thinning of resources. Reduced dependency on IT resources has impacted everyone since the economy fell down in 2007 and 2008. They're either going to outside vendors, multitasking, multifunctioning across all departments to help support and maintain IT infrastructure. And more importantly, people need access. It's all about access, whether it's the consumer market or whether it's the commercial marketplace. This marketplace is about, I need access to resources and security function the minute I think about it, or the minute it comes to mind, or the minute an incident happens. So that's led to, at this point in time within our industry, risk management is required, but there's an aversion to risk because we do not want hardware on our system that is too complicated, too maintenance required, that I can't support, and there's just no way around it. So the way forward is to integrate our risk management and our control function with what we've already invested with and the resources that are either available within my building or within my campus or outside my building. So leading to the next slide, what I want to talk about is higher education and campuses. One of the things that Glenn brought up, and Glenn and I want to thank him for inviting me into this discussion. Glenn and I have worked for years in the higher education campus environment with a variety of newer technologies to try to address customer issues and concerns. In the state of California, we've had great success in leveraging current IT infrastructure in the higher education with the state of California and the California Region Board universities, as well as public and private education institutions, by implementing access and security within the current IT profile. When you use what a customer already has in place, it obviously will reduce deployment costs, and we found that out, that not only can we use lots of IT infrastructure that's already been installed within the walls, especially on the West Coast because our buildings tend to be newer. But more importantly, many of those blue and white cable jacks are near doors. So I don't have to put in electrical conduit systems. I don't have to put in endpoint design. I don't have to interrupt student function, research function, or even teaching functions in campuses to construct with trade crafts how to do that. We've done that reduced deployment costs via wireless endpoint protection, such as what was mentioned briefly by Glenn, PoE-driven or wireless battery-powered even locking systems, fully up to commercial class-grade locks with readers and keypads and dual authentication if needed, features built into the point. We also allow through the cloud, because we don't have to maintain all the servers and hardware redundancy on a new rack, when we plug those systems back through the internet to a cloud-based structure, it becomes service-oriented. So accessibility is anywhere all the time. Whether I'm on vacation or in the middle of the night, remote, I can get to the internet, I can get to my system, I can get to a public internet, I can verify my credentials, and I can go ahead and get access to a database, muster a report, but more importantly, deny or grant access to a door, a group of buildings, or under the worst conditions. Compliance then has become cloud-driven resources providing interactive redundancy. It's the thin versus thick layers, they call it. The cloud provides a resource of instant, almost instantaneous access, regardless of how an original profile proprietary of hardware systems a company would put in place. If I can get to the cloud and I have access to the internet, which is almost anywhere, I then can interoperate my system. It keeps mission critical systems up by eliminating points of failures. And that comes up to a big misunderstanding in the industry, why the cloud, where is the cloud? I was joking with Glenn in the group the other week. We're down in San Diego at a large university where we're doing an 80 lock project starting on Thursday. And we're walking around in IT rooms, and the person points to an IT room and says, I know where my servers are, my switches are, my panels are, I know where my connection points are. Every time I go in an IDF room, I don't understand, where's the cloud? It's not on my rack. And because we see things in physical terms, we have to understand that cloud services and the adoption of cloud services has taken some time. But because of that adoption that's gone on over the last 6 to 8 years, they're already fitted. We're doing security from a wireless PoE-driven standpoint, utilizing the cloud for both security and access control, and more recently, even video control. Drivers are based upon where the revenue from the customer is. The customer, whether it's private or public, they're going to invest where it has the most impact with their revenue base. So if it's a campus, students pay tuition, students pay for housing. A lot of the capital upgrades that we're getting access and security controls in are obviously in housing, in research centers. That's where students spend their money, and that's where it is paid. Cloud is fitted perfectly for these applications, as Glenn was alluding to, because it's pretty much an anywhere type system for the operator or administrator interface, and it allows you to leverage what they've already fitted these buildings with as far as IT infrastructure. We just simply have to properly integrate the endpoint device, which in this case would be door control, security points, and or camera integration. Moving on to the next issue that we run into, it shows that compliancy can be addressed in the most risk-adverse areas, such as a utility energy. So in higher education, we're leveraging endpoint design currently. We're using common new devices such as locks with built-in readers and keypads and wireless NIC cards and interfaces, PoE-driven or even battery-powered, to allow and grant access to a door. Well, that's the same thing in the highest possible level if we go to the next slide, such as utilities and energy. Higher education has always kind of led a lot of security design within the United States. It's either been DoD driven or it's been campus public exchange driven. Well, that's led us to allow us in a true compliance marketplace whether it's protecting the grid or the energy grid, to make the same yes or no, grant access, don't grant access. Very spread out geography. We run all the IT infrastructure, whether it's in the middle of the desert, on top of a rocky mountain as a solar plant, or in the middle of a city, an urban environment. All of these utility energy grid control centers have existing IT infrastructure in place to monitor, maintain our critical energy infrastructure. Because that's the case, they are a perfect place to leverage that infrastructure with a cloud-driven resource. We marry up a profile of hardware in the field so that we can intelligently address the door with an ASA abloy or an allergen or other type of lock. We can grant access and grant credentials based on authority level. And now, as Glenn brought to the table, we can also grant what? A video capture feed of the audit trail happening. We can have a camera at the door that can take that snapshot to ensure, from an authentication purpose, that we allowed the right person in, or we have an audit trail showing that. All of that proof of concept is a reality in security these days. It's no longer about showing your hardware and the speed of your processor. Security these days, whether it's higher education or energy, is about proving that you're actually taking care of risk compliance, audit controls, and you can fit it within the customer's current structure of risk reporting. That even is shown in other industries such as communication, which we'll handle on the next slide. The communication, that by definition, whether it's Verizon, Sprint, or others, their brand efficiency is placed upon integrated communications across their network. They're in the business of communication. Obviously, everything that's IT in a telecom or a comm world is available, from control center to control cabinet. And they need an audit trail that shows a real expertise. They need to know when someone goes out, opens up a control cabinet or a switch, that they did maintenance, whether it's up on a pole or a ground box. Sitting on that pole and that ground box is full IT infrastructure that's measuring and helping support a communication enterprise. That was required and necessary to be fitted, whether it was for campuses, or in this case, let's say for a pure play communications company like a Verizon and AT&T or other Sprint. We have the capability to put a reader on a control cabinet, just like we do at a door, can be PoE driven or battery powered to provide an audit trail. All the decentralized intelligence remains down at that item, control cabinet or door. So if there is a telecom failure, we can support, in the most strictest environments, the proper decision to allow someone through a door or to open a cabinet to work on critical infrastructure. IT is available from the control center to the control cabinet, and in the most harsh environment, it's about getting and understanding the importance of resource efficiency. Right now, we need to utilize what's been put in place from an infrastructure standpoint with all of our clients, because the clients are involved in reanalyzing and correcting the problems and points of failures on networks they've already established. So whether it's higher education with campuses spread out over sparse or large geographic areas, whether it could be energy, grid providers, or even telecom, telecommunication centers, or businesses that are in that business, cloud-driven resources can provide the interface for the customer to rely from anywhere. They can get access to it, they can interoperate their systems, muster reports, and most important, allow them to manage and mitigate risk under the worst possible circumstances while leveraging what they've already put in place. With that in mind, one of the things that we had to come up with, and if you've been in this business for long enough, in my case, going on 26 years, and I've been with some of the largest organizations on the planet in this business, and I've had my own company, and currently I work with a security integrator, and we are really strong in campus, higher education, pharmaceutical requirements for DoD as well as utility grid. You have to come up with kind of a best practice when you go into a client, or let's say Glenn has a client that he needs us to go out and assess with him to see how we can design a system and fit with a fitted approach. Today's environment is a true partnership with both IT, management, as well as the real estate stakeholders. It's no longer, if you know somebody in IT, you can get your system moving and integrated properly, or you have a COO or a chief real estate officer or an operations officer that handles buildings, and you can contract with them. You really have to have both, because we're truly in a connected real estate market. They have less resources to manage their buildings. They have more maintenance staffs and operating staffs wearing multiple hats. And in many cases, they're outsourcing those staffs. And they really only want maintenance on demand when needed. They don't want people just sitting around getting ready to go work on something and waiting for the phone to ring. You can't just have one partnership. And we found out that using a cloud-based structure where we limit our hardware profile with the customer, we leverage wires and switches and communication networks that are already in place, that we obviously are going to reduce failures because we have less points of failure, and we're utilizing deployable resources. By deployable, I mean we deploy some additional items on a system. Let's say we add reader locks, and maybe we need to add wireless access points, or the customer beefs that up. But we're already leveraging so many deployed resources that have come common to the customer. They've already adopted them. They already have systems and staffs in place to help partner and maintain those. So a cloud-driven resource, so that you don't have to set aside separate staffs to add, delete cardholders, and it allows you the flexibility to go to a third-party provider, maintain it yourself, maintain it through another, or maintain it through, let's say, an integrator like myself. You're still leveraging all those deployable resources in place. Cloud-based support is required to provide really a true dynamic fitted approach. It allows the customer not to have to waste time and resource and effort in doing what? In managing whether a card works at a door, whether the credentials are up to date, whether the system's operating, what the speed of the system operating is. It allows them to fit an approach that says, when I need to look at my system, muster a report, or make a decision based on an occurrence or an incident, I can subscribe to that approach, and my expectation is when I need it, it's available. And that's really been the hardest part of enterprise-wide integration in my marketplace for the last 15 to 20 years. Proprietary systems have lent themselves to proprietary results. As Glenn said, the oldest systems on the network are systems out of my industry, and those systems need to be upgraded. They're one of a kind, and they're one-offs. Our compliance is based upon data access, not the hardware profile that's been in place for 10 years. The cost for the true connection is really what real estate operations, IT, and engineering need. They get an expectation that I can get to my system, muster report, do what I need to, get in, get out, under the worst circumstances in the middle of the night or the middle of the day, and get real value impact on what my risks and requirements are. So a couple of things come up with the checklist. You have a partnership between IT and real estate. We reduce failures through deployable resourcing. The cloud is really designed to support a fitted approach. It allows an organization like Glenn's to fit the structure of the system and the way it interfaces and operates with the end user in such a way that they're happy with it. It doesn't require you to get trained non-intuitively on a proprietary group of software sets. It's current monthly release license fee, its current monthly release update, and if I don't have the update, will my system still work? That's gone. So we have a checklist where we reduce failure through resources that are already in place. We partner. We use the cloud to help fit our approach. Redundancy that becomes subscribed versus